Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today, and welcoming to the show political commentator and director of the Democracy Project from Victoria University in Wellington, Dr. Bryce Edwards. Kia ora, good morning. Thanks for your time today.
Morena, Andrew.
It has been an interesting week, and we're kind of on the cusp of the new government because in 48 hours or so, we'll have some more details about how those negotiations have gone. One thing that I found very interesting, though, is, a certain tweet by Winston Peters about the Christchurch massacre and the fact that neither National nor Labour, neither National Act, Labour's out, catch up, have made any comments, negative comments against Winston Peters' tweet. And for David Seymour to bite his tongue that hard, we haven't seen it before in his political career, Bryce. It's amazing.
Look, yes, absolute discipline on the Conservative side of politics. That was quite a inflammatory tweet for a lot of people that Winston Peters sent, questioning really the Prime Minister's office about what happened on that day and why he wasn't informed, and really pushing the kind of conspiracy, theory type stuff. And whether that was done just because Winston Peters, was kind of in a strange mood, and or whether it was entirely a strategic tweet. It's a bit unsure. People have different opinions on this, but yes, it certainly did test those other potential coalition partners,
certainly
because they did not react.
Certainly something that Winston has always been, had as a high value is loyalty. He's expected that from his party members. He's expected that from his coalition partners. Potentially a loyalty test before the deal gets locked down, do you think, or not even that strategic?
Well, that's good theory, and it could well be right. It's a bit hard to work out Winston Peters. He works in mysterious ways, as they say. But not to give him too much of a godlike reputation, but it could well be. And you're right, he does demand respect from the people he works with. And absolutely, it put the likes of the ACT leader in a difficult situation. Who
honestly, during the campaign, had very little nice things to say about Winston Peters, but suddenly his tune has changed, or it stopped altogether. Perhaps it's going to be a tongue-biting 3 years if this deal goes ahead, right?
It will. So we really don't know what sort of deals are being looked at the moment. So under New Zealand's form of MMP government, you can have full coalition agreements whereby you have a major party with minor parties fully involved in government, with ministers appointed to those minor parties and involved in cabinet each week. Or you can have minor parties that just sit on the crossbenches and agree not to vote the government out, essentially. So to give them the votes in Parliament to put forward their budget, etc. And so those two extremes, or two ends of the spectrum, we just don't know. It could be the case that ACT get ministers in cabinet and New Zealand First don't, or vice versa. It's going to be quite hard to involve both New Zealand First and ACT for those very reasons you've just talked about. But pragmatism can actually be quite effective in making people work together. And yes, we saw David Seymour really hamming it up, during the election campaign, fighting against Winston Peters. But these people have a habit of being like noisy dogs, when they're trying to get votes, but then they're like puppies. They're like, or kittens once they're actually in government. And we might well see Peters and Seymour being best friends under this new coalition.
Or at least very grumpy kittens. Exactly. Hey, something which is talked up quite a lot during the election process is National's 100 days and the things that they're wanting to achieve. This is how we're going to transform New Zealand society and get back to some of the stuff that you perhaps remember from years past. First up, Bryce, how practical is that? Because, 1st of November today, the next 100 days, that's November, December, January, nobody's doing any work at all, and certainly Parliament's not particularly busy. The first 100 days, it's going to be a public holiday, surely.
Yes, well, it was a good campaigning sort of slogan about the first 100 days.
Yep.
It suggests momentum and that this new government's going to be one of action,
Hmm.
and it kind of counterposed that against the current government, which wasn't seen to be delivering on things. And Christopher Luxon,
Yep.
he does seem an energetic type.
Hmm.
I don't know if you saw in the paper today, he was talking about how he gets sometimes only 3 or 4 hours sleep.
Wow.
He typically goes to bed between 11 and 1 a.m. and gets up at 4:30 a.m., which I just find quite incredible. I think Margaret Thatcher had a similar work routine.
And Winston Churchill as well, to put them all in the same bucket. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he wants to be this man of action. He's kind of campaigned on there being all these crises,
Yeah.
and so it wouldn't really be a good look to just go away on holiday after he's formed a government with Seymour and Peters. But you're right, it's going to be quite difficult over the December, January
Even if one of them goes on
done.
holiday, if they're a coalition government, I mean, this is kind of the three-legged stool that we've voted in. It may be quite tricky.
But they will still do lots of stuff. It's just a question of whether it's more symbolic than actually substance. They will start repealing Three Waters. They will start getting rid of the Murray Health Authority. They will introduce to Parliament various pieces of legislation. So it will very much be a starting point. And doing some of the more big issues that they have promised. But we're not going to see our lives turn around suddenly as citizens under this government. There won't be a lot of change that affect our lives, I don't think, no.
Yeah, certainly some lighting of fuses perhaps, but no actually transformational work there. I mean, taking that line, of course, wasn't it FDR, Roosevelt, who talked about the big deal and the first 100 days and how he's going to transform American society. I mean, hey, talking a big game, but whether or not that's achievable between now and Waitangi Day seems unlikely, right?
Well, I don't know. Yes, you're putting up a pretty big comparison there, FDR and the New Deal.
I think that was where the phrase comes from. The first 100 days. That was one of his campaign slogans back in the day. Yeah.
And it was effective, and he did deliver some transformational stuff in America in those decades. So it's hard for any government to just suddenly come in and pull the levers and expect everything to the public service, just implement everything. So I do think National is going to come up with a lot of frustration, some barriers. They might not find that, well, the boot's got to be on the other foot, really. You're going to have talk about where the new national government isn't delivering and why it's taking them so long and why aren't they turning things around like they said they would. So
they've got some coalition partners to blame this time, like
indeed,
exactly, like the first Labour government. Having said that, though, do you think there'll be some new things on the list, new things on the to-do list for this coalition government, some non-negotiables that have been added to the first 100 days by either New Zealand First or ACT?
Look, I'll be really disappointed if there is. This has been a campaign where we've gone through all the policies of different parties. If suddenly something new comes out, I think that will be kind of a democratic, problem to have just suddenly new policies arranged. And it has happened in the past. So when that Jacinda Ardern government came in, they gave away a policy to the Greens where we'd have this referendum on marijuana. And that came out of nowhere. And likewise, when the last John Key government came in, suddenly for ACT, he gave charter schools. And I'm not criticising these policies per se, but they weren't really discussed during the election campaign. And suddenly you have a new government with things that surprise us all. I don't think that should happen. I think it does reduce people's trust in the process if surprising new things come out.
But if that's the thing you need to promise in order to form a government, then expediency,
there might well be
etc.
surprises.
Exactly. Hey, Bryce, we wait and see what form this new government will take and what sort of holiday we all get in the first 100 days. But thanks for your comments. Thanks for joining us.